My name's Rodney. I'm the Election Integrity Chair of the Frederick County Republican Committee, and I'm going to be telling you about some things that are going on in our country right now. You watch the news, you will see the attempts by other countries to influence our elections. You will see the influence of dirty corporations that are set up to influence our elections. I'll go through that. And elections have consequences. If you look at the gas pumps now versus 3 years ago, it's a big difference. There's a reason. There's a reason that we have an economy that's going to hell. And it's all because of elections. And in this case, I believe elections that were stolen. But I deal in data, and we can't get to the data that we need to prove it. It's purposely hidden, and there's reasons for that. We are fighting the fight to get that data right now in Virginia. I'm on several election integrity committees that are on a national level, and we are fighting to get all that data across the country as well. I was looking through the news this morning. You may have remembered a guy named Sam Bankman-Fried. Well, he set up a corporation, pretty good money laundering in the cryptocurrency field, and he funneled $40 million to different Democrat nominees. $40 million. But if you notice what he was charged for, he was charged for giving $40 million, pardon me for a second, I think I got these screwed up. He was charged for giving $40 million to several different Chinese Communist government officials who are also working with different groups inside the United States to manipulate our elections. Part of the problem is they come up with companies that do software that run our elections, and part of the problem is that our information gets sent out of our country to other countries on election day, election night. It's analyzed, it's sent back, and then miraculous findings of hundreds of thousands of ballots at 3 in the morning. If you've been watching different news networks, you can actually see the video of over 100,000 ballots being dropped off at 3 in the morning in the counting center in Lansing, Michigan. In addition, the January 6th committee, the ones who they're coming up with all the charges against Trump and pushing it, guess what? They destroyed evidence from their committee. They destroyed a bunch of material that came from the Capitol Police, and apparently that information is gone. I'm sure somebody has a copy of it to save their own skin later on, but that's gone. So elections have consequences. And going back to the Chinese, there was a guy named Eugene Yu. He was the chairman and CEO of a company called Connec, K-O-N-N-E-C-H. And Connec was a company that was offering management services for different precincts throughout the country, and they were supposed to be a time management software program. But what they were actually doing for every locality that used their contracting services, they would take our information and send it to a server in China. So why China is interested in election officers for any reason other than to manipulate our elections, there's not a feasible argument for it. So I need your help. I need everybody in here to close your eyes, and I'm going to ask two questions. I need you to answer. Just raise your hand. Don't say a word. Don't peek. This is not to embarrass anybody. But how many people in here think that we have a democracy as a form of government? Well, I don't need your help then. So what we don't have a democracy as a form of government. We do have a federal republic, a republic that is set up by the Constitution, and we elect people to make our laws for us. So if we're angry about something, we can't go and push a fad, or a herd of Democrats can't, or leftists can't go and push a fad and change the law. So if you look at the definition of democracy in the Britannica online, it says a democracy is a system of government in which laws, policies, leadership, and major undertakings of state other than polity are directly or indirectly decided by the people. Is that true? It's not true. A democracy is a system of government where the people directly change the vote by voting on something. But the definition of democracy is being changed, and it's purposely being changed so these corporations and other countries can come in and manipulate our election process. The Founding Fathers knew about democracy versus republic, and that's why they set it up as a republic. Excuse me. Thomas Jefferson, one of his famous quotes was, "A democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people can take away the rights of the other 49. And that's very true. So right now we've had many different election laws in Virginia that were changed under Governor Northam and McAuliffe as well, that we can't change back and get rid of to common sense laws, because the Democrats hold the Senate in Virginia, and we need to change that. And until we do, we won't be able to change the laws back. So why the civics lesson? I think obviously most of you know, or all of you know, that we don't have a democracy, we have a republic. And the definition of democracy has actually changed. If you look up in an old dictionary, it will tell you it's basically a rule by the people. Right now, when people come into the United States, illegals, there is no checks of U.S. citizenship when they come to Virginia in the DMV. We have a program set up by the Immigration Service. It's called SAVE, Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements. But our government says they're not getting entitlements, so I don't know why we would need this program. But we could check every person coming into Virginia that signs up for a license, driver's license in Virginia, that automatically, unless they mark one box, they automatically get signed up to get a ballot in the mail. This right here is the reason for the illegal migration that's being pushed by the left. They want to cancel your vote. If your vote is canceled by one illegal, your vote doesn't count. You still voted, your vote was still counted, but so was the illegals. And your vote is therefore negated. So you didn't get a one-up with the vote that you cast, that you should have gotten as a U.S. citizen. Now, all this is, and I'm not sure how many of you heard of this, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Anybody heard of this? The left is pushing it. It's been in the news for a couple years now, but it's gaining traction. The Interstate Compact is a group of states that believe, and it's a group of leftists in the states that believe that the popular vote should count and the Electoral College should not have any sway whatsoever. The Founding Fathers set up the Electoral College to basically offset specific groups who were trying to take power. And this is the way the left is trying to get around the winner-takes-all states. A lot of states have winner-takes-all. Some are divided in their electoral votes. Virginia, we're winner-takes-all. Take all. So whoever one of our electoral votes goes for in a presidential election, all of their votes go for. Not all states are like that. But the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is something you should look up and you should be very familiar with. They only need enough states to cover 65 more electoral votes. And then they have it. Then the electoral college is basically null and void, and this popular vote tally will decide who the president is. Of course, there's going to be a lot of litigation over that, and a lot of fights, and maybe a few other things flying through the air, but they're pushing for it, so be aware of it. The last time I spoke, I talked about ERIC, which was the Electronic Registration Information System in Virginia. This guy named David Becker right here is funded by Soros through the Open Society Foundation, the Pew Charitable Trust, and his new, or latest invention, is not really new, the Center for Election Innovation and Research is funneling more than $400 million to different Democrat candidates throughout the United States. He was also one of the favorite recipients from Zuckerberg and his wife's donations to manipulate elections. Now, the last time I talked, I was telling you that the Frederick County Election Integrity Committee and the different election integrity committees in the state and national level, we're all trying to get rid of ERIC. We actually forced the governor to get us out of ERIC. Virginia is no longer in ERIC. And what ERIC was it was supposed to be a security software to protect information of the vote. And what they actually turned out to be was a funnel system for get out the vote to Democrats. And then they would come up with different names and lists of names of voters who hadn't voted in very many years, and they identify these, sell these to the Democrat candidates, and miraculously, these people suddenly vote via mail-in ballots, but they suddenly vote. But when they went and questioned about whether they voted, they didn't do it. So what they're doing is identifying people who don't vote but are eligible to vote, and then they're voting in their name. So this is something that we are working on. Eric is gone, but we're still working on cleaning up voter registration here in the county, here in the state, and on a national level as well. We are having some problems getting the information, but we're still fighting it. Eric is, curiously enough, being replaced by the Canton Group out of Baltimore, Maryland. When you look on their website, some of their board of directors have their first name only, no last name. You can't find any history on them anywhere. So why the State Board of Elections now has signed a contract with them is we're trying to find that answer. And we're trying to follow the money. So the new lineup of con games from the Democrats, one of the newer things is it's called star voting. And the stated reason for star voting is a bunch of BS. You can read it there. Polarization, glass ceilings, lack of representation, lack of diversity, voting for the lesser of two evils, blah, blah, blah. So what they actually do is they have the names listed on the ballots. You are not choosing which candidate you like the most. You are grading them. So if your first candidate you think is halfway to what you like, you grade them as a 3. If they go along with everything you like, you go along, they're a 5, and so on. So after the ballots are filled out, they add up all the numbers from the candidates off those ballots, and the top 2, the people with the top 2 numbers move on to an instant runoff. So they don't actually then have a instant runoff like they're calling it. You would take in an instant runoff, you would take the top 2 and have everybody vote again. That would be an instant runoff. This, they look at the ballots, see who had the higher number, and take that person as the winner. So what happens is, if the left, which loves to do this, they want to pack these people in. There's no way, if you have 10 Democrats and 2 Republicans, that the numbers will ever elect a Republican candidate. Never. Basic math, can't happen. Yeah. So they're really pushing that. Another one that goes along, it's similar to that, is it's called approval voting. So you have a list of the candidates, and if you approve of them, you check by their names. And if you don't, you leave the box open. And at the end of it, the person with the most check marks wins. So again, if they saturate the race with their candidates, mathematically, there is no way that a Republican can ever win. Cannot happen. The one they're really pushing in Virginia now is ranked choice voting. They call it instant runoff. Again, the term instant runoff, they're lying. It is not an instant runoff at all. I will show you the ballot. This is the ballot. So there are 4 candidates. You rank them in choice by 1, 2, 3, or 4. And at the beginning, or at the first round, you count everyone. The person with the lowest number is eliminated. Now, you would think then, being honest arbiters of election, that they would go to round 2 and calculate all the votes for them. But that's not the case. The people who voted for the candidate that got eliminated, actually, their second choice vote is then calculated before anybody else's second choice vote is calculated. So if you have a bunch of fools who are towing their little party line and looking at their sample ballot and voting right down along that, where Republicans, we don't vote whatever the sample ballot says, we vote our conscience. But they vote right down the party line, and at that point, at the end of round 2, you may have a winner. If you're going for only one seat that's open, then you have to have 50% plus 1 vote, and then they won. That's the end of the election. If not, then they calculate the losers' second choice votes first, and if they don't have a threshold of 50% plus 1, then you go on to the third, and so on until somebody reaches 50% plus 1. But not everybody's vote is the same, because the losers get their votes calculated before anybody else. So, one, it's unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment, because it should have one person, one vote. Everybody's vote should be equal. It's not under the ranked choice voting. So this is the breakdown of, if you have 1 seat, you have to have 50% plus 1. If you have 2 seats, then you have to have 33% plus 1. In Arlington, they were the first in Virginia to have a state-run election using ranked choice voting. It was for the Democrat-only primary for their Board of Supervisors. They had 6 candidates, but their software would only calculate 3. So you're not really getting 6 candidates to pick from. You have to pick 3 out of 6. The software, when it was actually tabulating, their algorithm actually screwed up. This is, and I'm not sure if you can see it. It's hard to see, and it's hard to bring off their website. It's in gray on their website. I think it's purposeful. But if you look at this, they had 28,000 people vote in the first round. So in the second round, you would have generally 28,000 votes again, because you have 6 people You can only vote for 3 of them, okay? So at the end of the total, you should have roughly 28,000 votes times 3 because you have a first round, second round, third round. If you look at these numbers, they did not tabulate all the votes from the second round, period. They took the votes from the first round, and you can look this up on the State Board of Elections website. They took the 28,000 votes, they dropped the guy who lost, they reallocated, that's what they call it, reallocated his votes that went on to the second choice losers' votes first. Those were calculated, and then so on. They never added any of the second and third round votes. Well, you get litigation, and that's exactly what's happening right now. They're getting their butts chewed off by one of the candidates. It's illegal. So that tells me they didn't know what they were doing in the first place. They don't even know how to tabulate the own system that they were pushing. So the Board of Supervisors in Arlington, which are all Democrats, chose to scrap the ranked choice voting for the present time. So basically he said, we screwed up, we don't know what the hell we're doing, we are getting sued for it, and so we're going to scrap it. They're not going to have ranked choice voting in November, but yet they promised to come back to it later on.
Rodney, are the Democrats suing the Democrats?
Yes. Let them eat each other. Absolutely. Throw them salt and knife and fork. Yeah. Well, they are a miserable bunch. So one of the things that ranked choice voting goes along with ranked choice voting is if you have multiple seats that are going to be filled, like in Arlington, you actually if a person in the first round gets more than the threshold, and that threshold for 3 was 25% plus 1 vote. So one of them got like 35% in the first round, or let me see. No, sorry. It went out to the. They would have got 35% in the second round had they tabulated more the correct ballots, but they didn't do it. So if you go out to the 40% in round 4, the threshold was 33%. They took everything above 33% and reallocated it based on diversity and inclusiveness. So they take part of your vote, they call it fractional reallocation, so they can't take your vote, but they can take a lot of little pieces of everybody's vote, and people say, oh, that's okay. Well, I don't say it's okay. Anybody with any sense doesn't say it's okay, but that's part of ranked choice voting, and thank God it failed miserably in Arlington. So how you figure that threshold is you have the election threshold, the number of votes to meet that, minus their or divided by their votes, number of votes, and then they're reallocated to the next voter or to the next candidate. Well, you can't get it right because it's illegal, and they don't know what the hell they're doing anyway. So, yeah. So what can we do? The governor put out a Secure Your Vote program. I'm not sure if you saw the commercials or not. Part of what he's saying is correct. Part of what he's saying is absolutely incorrect. Early voting starts September 22nd. You should go, if you are physically able, and vote in person as soon as possible. The other part was he said to request a mail-in ballot. And the only reason you should ever request a mail-in ballot is if you are either out of state or incapacitated. And then he said, get on a permanent absentee ballot list. And I'm telling you, that is a Democrat's dream. If we get on the mail-in ballot list, they'll be happy. If we get on a permanent ballot list, they'll win every election ever because they cheat, we don't. You can manufacture illegal votes and ballots, and we don't do that. So vote early in person. Don't wait till election day. That's what we used to do as Republicans. But what happens is the same people who are doing the ballot harvesting are getting the list of eligible voters, which includes your names if you're registered or your names if you're eligible but not registered, haven't voted in a while. And they can request a mail-in ballot to your address. Then they can watch the mailboxes, and they do in the city. It'd be harder out here in the rural areas because we're more likely to take a Second Amendment offense to people stealing my ballot. I know I am. But what they do is send all these ballots to parking lots in Fairfax. We've got a group of election integrity people there who are going to every address where more than 2 ballots are going. And they're checking that address. And what they found was there's 850 people that live in one 450 square foot apartment. 850 people. Must be some skinny little fellas, I'm telling you. They don't eat in my house. But you know, it's we've got to know what we're doing. We've got to follow these people. We've got to know how they're cheating and fight it. And that's what we're doing through election integrity. So what can you do besides vote in person? There's several different ways. You can be a poll watcher. I give poll watcher training before every election. And poll watchers, what they do is actually stand behind the officers of elections and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. You can be a poll greeter. That's the people on the outside. So when people come up who aren't really, and it's unbelievable to me how many people don't know who they're going to vote for when they arrive at the polling station. But if you are there as a poll greeter and you greet them and you talk to them and you have a picture of the candidates which the Republican Party would supply, they'll take their sample ballot in and they will vote. You can be a door knocker. The campaigns usually set that up if you want to do that. If your knees are good, I have knee braces on both knees, so I'm not a good door knocker. But I am an officer of election, and if you want to become an officer of election, get with me. I'll have my name here at the end, my email. Send me an email. We'll get you trained. We'll get you on the list, and then you'll have to go through the county training that certifies you by the state. You could be an electoral board member. We have Kay Dawson sitting back there. She's helping me fight the fight. She was on the election integrity committee with the Republican Party before she became an electoral board member. And Dana was picking on her a little while ago, but I'll tell you what, I got $10 on Kay Dawson all day long.
Amen.
He's going to take a thrashing, and she's a little height challenged, so she'll probably chew you off at the knees first and then wear you out. And then if you wanted to run for a candidate for an office, let us know, and we'll get you set up that way as well. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Yes, sir.
Doesn't the state attorney general's office have anything to do with the election and stuff like that?
Well, that's funny you say that. The Attorney General was up here at the Small Business Freedom Alliance the other day, and so I didn't go because we've been sending his office stuff since probably May of last year. Never got a response. Apparently he got embarrassed at the Small Business Freedom Alliance when one of the Republicans asked him, "What are you doing about election integrity? They've sent you stuff, you've never responded, and what are you doing about it?" Well, apparently they looked through the paperwork that I'd been sending them, and I'm not sure, but I think Kay was in on some of it too. And lo and behold, they found it finally. And they sent a request for a list of the officers of elections. I don't know how many if you guys actually read the terrible paper we have, the Communist Star. But if you read that, you would have seen where I was fighting against the electoral board, excluding Kay. She was the only one who was abiding by the law, and going after the registrar for incorrectly and illegally appointing officers of elections. So what they were doing, they were supposed to have half Republicans, half Democrats. We have lists that we turn in January of every year. The electoral board certifies those. It's supposed to be hanging in the registrar's office by law. It's not. The list that I turned in is not the same list that is hanging there now. So many curious things happen. And apparently, Miaris is finally going to take care of that. So I threatened to sue the electoral board and the registrar's office. Was that before November, Kay, or before the special elections? I can't even remember. I threatened to sue them all the time. But this time, Pollock, who was one of the Senate District 1 candidates, who happens to be a lawyer, actually stepped in and said, hey, Rodney's right. I'm going to sue you for him. And then, so they changed a little bit. They didn't change it all the way. And when the Attorney General's office gets that list, they're going to start digging, and then the registrar is going to be, and two of the, okay, so one of the electoral board members is going to be on the hook because we have a new chair from the Democrats, and the old chair had some health problems, had to resign, and the thought of being sued just did him in. He wasn't up to it, and I wasn't the only one going to sue him. So we got a new Democrat. She wasn't involved last year appointing officers of elections, but she was this year. So she's going to be in trouble, and one of the electoral board members who are Republicans, not Kay, is also going to be in trouble. So hopefully the Attorney General is going to do his job. We're going to encourage him loudly and embarrassingly if he doesn't. So, shame on him. Yes, sir.
I heard you last month, too, to my own shame. I never checked on any of this list. What on that list is feasible for someone to do, and what is really too late at this point?
Well, none of them are too late except the running for a candidate and the electoral board members. Electoral board members are full. They're appointed for 3 years. We don't have one of those turnover until, is it December 31st this year or next year? Next year. And then, of course, it's too late to file as a candidate. Yeah. Well, no, it's not too late for any of the rest of them. Just the electoral board members and running for office, it's too late right now. You can do any of the rest. Well, I will. You give me a second. Apparently, I'm going to get my chudo on my knees, too. That's why I wear these metal things, right? Yeah, she came out the last time, chewed my legs, and she went home. Her teeth were dented, but I had to get new braces in, too, though. My name is Rodney Wine, rodneywine1@gmail.com. Email me. I'm simple, rodneywine1@gmail.com. Contact me. We'll get you started. So, any other questions?
Was there any on that list that you would consider more important, like the poll watchers?
Sure, officers of elections, because they run the actual election. So in a precinct, you have a chief officer of election. You have an assistant chief officer of election. One's supposed to be a Republican, one's supposed to be a Democrat. Then the rest of the officers of elections that are working in that precinct should be half Democrat, half Republican. At any point, if any officer of election sees an issue that the chief is doing incorrectly, illegally, they have the legal right, they have the legal responsibility to say, hey, chief, you're doing this wrong. You need to stop. You need to do it right. Now, as officers of elections, you need to know what you're talking about. The majority of them do not. They go through the training, they stand there at the polls, they do something, they tell you that you can't have poll watchers watching everything. That's one of the Democrats' favorite, and some Republican chiefs won't let the poll watchers see what the Virginia law specifically says that they can see. So, yes, officer of election, and if the chief doesn't do what you tell him and you disagree, you call the registrar's office. You call Kay Dawson or one of the other members of the electoral board. Kay Dawson's the one that I always call and tell everybody to call. But officers of election is the most important because you learn it. You can stop BS from going on at the spot, and then you can move up to chief officer of election where you can run your own precinct. Sure, absolutely, okay.
Well, I strongly recommend people take the poll watcher training. The best officers of election you have are people that have taken that training. They've actually experienced what goes on the whole time during an election. But some people can go right in and be officer of election. You just go into the registrar's office and fill out a form. And that sets the whole process going.
If you contact me, I will get you in line with online training every Tuesday night. There is online training set up by a lady named Clarabelle Wheeler from VFE, which is Virginia for Fair Elections. I will give at least one more training before November, probably early September, for poll watchers and anybody who wants to be an officer of election. But if you want to be an officer of election, go ahead and sign up. Go down to the registrar's office. Contact Kay. Let her know you're going down, and preferably give her the application. And then we'll get you trained. You come to my training and you stay awake, you will know what you're talking about more than 90% of the officers of elections that are working in the precincts. I will have the code sections there. I will tell you exactly what you can do, what you can't do, where it says in the code that you can do it, and I'm pretty damn good at it. Yep. And not to be bragging, but I enjoy fighting the weasels. So, yes, what else?
Kind of two things. One, would that person have a handbook, say, of all those things?
Yeah.
And the other is, if a person goes to be any of those, are they assigned to like their voting district where they live, or how's that?
Well, preferably, the law says if possible, you will be assigned to your precinct where you vote in. But that's not always possible. We have so many slots, and we always need officers of elections, but that doesn't mean that we don't have enough officers of elections who are Republicans in your precinct. You might work in the next precinct over. So there's 32 precincts plus cap. Pardon? 30, sorry. Precincts where you can work throughout the county. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick comment. We found that when you go into interview with the registrar, and he may ask you, why do you want to be an officer of election? And what you say is, it's my civic duty.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, it's not.
I want to cure the world.
Well, right, and don't say anything about cheating because he's a Democrat. We haven't been able to remove yet. He's appointed for 4 years, was just reappointed, and so unless one of my battles against him results in him getting a boot, which that's one of my intentions, he'll be there for 4 years.
How did he just get reappointed?
We have one Democrat on the electoral board, and we have one Republican who votes more like a Democrat. That's not Kay Dawson, and you only need 2 out of the 3 votes to hire him, or in this case, rehire him. So, anything else? All righty, y'all have a good day.